Welcome to Nice and Blunt. It's time for another podcast episode with Angus McKay, and we're done with week one. Did you have fun? Was it a good week, Angus? How did it go
It,
for you?
it, it was fun, other than I'm probably going to go 0-3 in the three leagues that I'm playing in. Other than that, I had a great time. The important thing everyone needs to remember is it's week one. So any of your players that you were high on, you were correct and your analysis is right. And anyone that you were high on who underperformed, that's just noise. It's only week one.
Yeah,
So
if it worked out, you're a genius. If it didn't, you just got to
yes,
give it time.
you got to give it time.
If you
Exactly.
if you were
That's
wrong, it doesn't apply week
doesn't
one,
mean
and
anything.
that really, I'm really gonna take that advice into heart for my win-loss picks because oh god, they were bad,
Yeah.
man. Last year I went 8-8, and at the moment I'm 8-7. So I'm really hoping the
Mm.
Niners pull through and improve me to a 9-7 record. But fuck,
I
bro.
think you'll bounce back in week two for sure. This was like, that being said, this was a weird week for sure. There was a lot of weird stuff.
I picked the wrong upsets. And
Mm,
speaking of upsets, let's get into some weird situations. I guess we're starting with not an upset. This was the Chiefs Ravens, as the viewers at home can see on the screen. I got the box score. I don't think you can see it, but anyways, some highlights of that. The Chiefs really really dominated with Rasheed Rice, and Xavier Worthy was just so explosive. He only had like
mhm.
3 touches on the game, but 2 touchdowns and just so much speed. Kelsey was kind of a non-factor, but it didn't really matter. Pacheco is super inefficient, but didn't really matter either. And the Ravens just, I mean, they almost won the game. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
they were
No,
so
they
close.
had they had two shots for it. Like if he had hit Zay Flowers, they win the game. They missed it by a toe, but likely in the end zone. So yeah, and those are just two specific plays, but they really kept getting them on that illegal formation or whatever that penalty was, where the tackle was just lined up too far back. It was so many of those.
And they called it unproportionally. Like when the Chiefs
Yeah.
did it, they didn't get the fucking call. Like surprise, surprise. Chiefs love
Yeah.
the Chiefs. Refs love the Chiefs. But yeah, they at least had a
Yeah.
shot to go for two, but it just didn't work out. Maybe they would have won straight up, but they were right there. And Isaiah
Mhm.
Likely was the player of the game. Holy shit! Like what a
Yeah.
revelation he was. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
are you reading into Andrews' fall off at all, or do you still have some
So
faith in Andrews?
So I guess we could start there. I avoided Andrews once I heard that the car accident thing happened, and that's just because I know
It worried me as
those are
well.
those are weird injuries. Where even if it's like, oh, he didn't break a bone, like you could have all sorts of muscle spasms. Who knows? Like there are so many things that could happen in that type of a weird injury. Who knows if that limited him? I know they double teamed him a lot. A lot of people were quick to point that out that they were kind of bracketing him. So really, they tried to kind of take him out of the game. But even when he got the ball, he didn't look that great.
That
My
slip, like that
Yeah,
one that
like
one catch where you just immediately fell down without being touched, like that was concerning.
he didn't look explosive. And then of course there's like the Isaiah Likely elephant in the room. Like I don't think he's coming to take Andrew's job, but the problem is before the pitch for the Ravens passing game was, yeah, they're not going to throw the ball a ton, but it's just going to be Andrews and Flowers. And we kind of know that's not true now. Like Isaiah Likely is a playmaker. So I don't think the Ravens are going to look at this game and say, yeah, we need to get Likely less involved. Maybe it's not more involved, but he's going to be on the field and then he's going to take targets.
Hard to imagine he gets another 12 target game like every single week. That I think
For
is
sure.
asking too much, but he played so well at the end of last year. He clearly like deserves a role.
Hmm.
I do think Andrews will probably bounce back. Like when I did my start sit video for this game, I noticed how Andrews was dog shit historically against the Chiefs. So it didn't
Hmm.
shock me that much that he was that bad and that they double teamed him and like really shut him down. But he looked like so unhealthy. Like he looked kind of
Yeah.
washed in general. And I hope it's just like lingering soreness from the car accident. But he did get hurt last year. And who knows?
Yeah.
Like he may never be the same guy. He's not the oldest tight end in the league. Like he's not like Kelsey's age, but he is above
Hmm.
30. It's not impossible that he's never quite the same player, and likely is just so explosive that it's kind of over for Andrews as like at least a top 5 guy. I won't be ranking
Mhm.
him top 5 for a while until he like proves it. But I would
Tight
see
end is just such a wasteland, though. Like the problem with saying
yeah.
like, "Oh, are you out on Andrews?" It's like, well, who are you going to put in?
He's
Like, it's
still
kind of
top
the
12 at the worst. Like
like there really isn't anyone you're going to comfortably replace him with. You certainly can't sell him. Like that's the other thing. It's like, what are you going? Like if you have him, you just kind of have to shrug and hope that things get better, even though it might not be the ceiling that you hoped for. You're just kind of hoping, hey, maybe they get it together a little bit.
on the bright side, at least for like Andrews, if you look at it like if you're panic on Andrews, if you're gonna panic, you have to panic on almost everyone. There were only 3 tight ends this week that
Yeah.
put up over 10 points, and one of them was Foster Moreau. Another
Hmm.
one was Isaiah Likely, obviously, and then the only other one was Kyle Pitts because he caught a touchdown
Yeah.
and put up 3 for 26. Andrews had 2 for 14. Like I'm not completely jumping ship on Andrews.
Yeah.
I'm worried a little bit. I think it might be some time before he gets back to elite, but I'm still probably gonna start him next week if I have him.
So
I don't think I'm gonna
someone I'm a bit worried
drop
about
him.
is Kelsey, I will say, mostly just because of where you probably had to draft him. And
A
it's
little
mostly
bit.
just because the Chiefs mentioned all offseason, we kind of want to limit his reps because the Chiefs, someone else said this phrase, but I think it's really true. The Chiefs treat the regular season like the preseason,
Yeah.
where they know they're going to the playoffs and they know their goal is a Super Bowl. And they know their only way they are going to win a Super Bowl, which I think they want more than ever this year for the three-peat, is with Kelsey healthy in the playoffs. And I think Kelsey knows that too. Like he has shown to be a pretty unselfish player. He keeps taking team-friendly deals. So like he's aware of like that it's not just personal with him. But from a personal standpoint, I think he's like very close to breaking like the postseason reception record or something like that. Like
He
he's like
he's
a
he's pretty close to Jerry Rice, yeah.
so he's very close to becoming the most valuable non-quarterback in the playoffs. And I do think he personally wants that record.
Oh,
And
for sure.
the only way he gets that is if he's healthy in the playoffs. So that's what I mean. The Chiefs have an incentive for him to be limited in the regular season, and so does he. And then you have Rice stepping up and doing well and taking over where he catches balls. So like there's a strong chance this might like yeah, he's probably going to score sometimes, but he just might not get a ton of work anymore. And he kind of looked bad. Like when he had the ball, he didn't look explosive. He didn't look like he was going to break off a big run. It looked like he was going to catch the ball and get tackled. So it's
Yeah.
like kind
It
of like I don't know what you're hoping to get out of him.
it's worth mentioning Noah Gray had one fewer target, but actually had a better fantasy game with an extra 3 yards on both 3 catches. So I don't think I'm gonna like completely overreact. It's still week 1, and they know the season's a marathon. Like there's gonna be some game where Kelsey goes for like 140
Sure.
and 2 touchdowns. But
And again, it's
yeah,
tight
I don't.
end. Like you're not going to sit him if you took
Yeah,
him. I just think at the end of the year, if you did take him, you're probably going to shrug and be like, "Yeah, that was probably a mistake."
once
Like he wasn't
Hollywood
worth
Brown,
that.
once Hollywood is healthy, it could get kind of ugly for Kelsey on like a consistency standpoint. But I did think
Mhm.
they kind of underutilized Derrick Henry in this game. Like only 13 carries. Lamar had 16 rush attempts, and it is week 1. Usually Henry's a little bit slow, but
You want to talk about someone who looked washed though? Like he running the ball didn't look
he
good.
didn't look great.
Like he looked like a really like a lineman basically running the ball. He did not look explosive. He didn't look quick. And like you said, it takes him a while to get going. But that offensive line looked bad. And so if that offensive line isn't going to get him any push up front, he I don't know what you're like with Henry, you need him to score a touchdown a game, which he could do. Like I'm not like he could
Yeah,
easily do that.
he should.
But like any week where he doesn't score, you're probably looking at a very disappointing fantasy results.
Yeah, 3.5 yards per carry, not encouraging. But I'm not gonna overreact to week 1 too much. I think the Ravens are still
Hmm.
a contender, and hopefully Henry
Yeah.
and Andrews get better. But I think we can move on unless there's any
One more,
last thing.
I really need, I hope this was just like a very big game for Lamar, and that's why he was running as much as he was and taking the hits he was taking. But if he doesn't slide more, like if he keeps taking those hits, he's not going to last the year. He's 20 pounds less, and he was just getting his shit rocked.
I'm
And again, it
hoping.
could be a revenge game, but man, that was, I saw a couple of those hits, and I was just like, oh my God, like if Lamar gets hurt, this team implodes.
Yeah,
So.
that
I need
is
him to stop.
that is important. I think it was just like it's against the Chiefs, and like if we're gonna
I
have
think
a
so
chance in the
too.
playoffs, we need home field. So we
Hmm.
need the tiebreaker, and hopefully it changes. But yeah, I don't expect 16 rush attempts per game from Lamar.
Hmm.
Anyways, we can move on. We'll go to Friday's game, the
Hmm.
Packers and Eagles. Let me pull it up on the screen. But anything jump out to you in that game?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I thought Jaden Reed was awesome. I
Yeah.
took the pick him over for him. That being said, with Love being out 3 to 6 weeks, I don't think you could start any Packers receiver with
No.
confidence.
No, not at all.
Like which really sucks. It sucks because Jaden Reed was probably on your bench, maybe, or like
I know.
you
Yeah.
just got him in there and maybe you took a chance on him and you were so excited for all like up until the last 10 seconds of the game, whatever it was, and now you're sitting here like, man, I can't even use this guy.
Yeah. The field was terrible. There were so many slips, but I don't think it was the field. It was just how he got tackled and
Yeah.
just a bad luck of the draw on Love. And that
Hmm.
really sucks. Like, is there a
Hmm.
world where I don't think he misses more than 3 weeks? Like, with the state of like recovery and like these athletes,
Oh,
almost
sure.
all the time it's the lower end of the recovery timeline when they come back. Like it's rare that you see a 3 to 6 week window and it's actually
Hmm.
6 weeks. It's usually
Yeah.
always on the 3 week side. But is there a world where like they go 0-4 and like this costs them a playoff spot because like they finish with like a 9-8 record and like like it
It could. No, for sure.
it could really derail their season. It's a
And then
bummer.
anyone who, and then also, I think it extends to Jacobs as well, because everyone being like, oh, now the offense is going to run through him. He's going to face so many more stacked boxes. They're just going to kind of like his efficiency is going to go down a ton. The offense just might not be in scoring position anymore. Like I was excited for Jacobs after seeing him in the game. Like, okay, he's doing well. This should be an above average offense. But yeah, every Green Bay player, you kind of have to take a deep breath and say, okay, I have to move him down, and I just can't be as excited about him.
In their next 3 games, they get the Colts at home. That's an L.
Hmm.
Maybe Jacobs goes off because Mixon just dominated them on the ground. But otherwise, I'm not starting uh, a Packers receiver with Malik Willis. Like that's just way too risky. The Titans on the road in Week 3, they could win that one. I wouldn't
Yeah,
completely put it past them just because Will Levis can turn it over like crazy.
100%.
It is a revenge game for Malik Willis. We'll see about that.
Hmm.
But then in Week 4, they get the Vikings at home, and that was an automatic dub. Now it's a true toss up. It might go in favor of Minnesota. And then if he misses Week 4,
Yeah,
it's at the Rams.
yeah.
I guess
I think
that'd be
that's a
Week
loss.
5. And then if he misses a fifth game, it's versus Arizona. He should be back by that point. Like I think the Rams game is probably when he returns most likely. But
Yeah,
they could definitely start off 0-4. If they lose to the
100%.
Titans, yikes! That's like kind of a must win. Uh,
Yeah, for sure. That's the only one where it's like, hey, we should be able to do this. Again, I watched Malik Willis like those few games where he filled in. It was very, it was like, oh, you're not a starting caliber NFL quarterback at
no,
all. Like,
he's really
so
bad. But
yeah.
the Eagles squeaked to a victory. It didn't feel like they were going to win in the first half at all.
Do you mind if I
Uh,
share my underdog pick'em
yeah, sure.
thing that happened?
Oh,
I
I know exactly where this
no,
is going.
the bad beat that I had. It was the underdog, like where they reimburse you get to bet and then they reimburse you, so you're not really covered. I had gotten three of the four correct, and then the last one I needed was a Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown. And literally the Eagles go down and it's a few seconds left and they're going to do the tush push. I am sitting there watching it. They take the timeout and I'm texting you like it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. They line up in it. I am as pumped as I could be.
On the one.
And on the one, and he fucking fumbles it. And I literally like it's those moments that make me think that like not that God's real, but like that something bigger than me is real, and they're like it's some sort of like maybe like wood sprite bullshit that you hear like Shakespeare plays that just where they're coming to fuck with you all the time, or like some Greek tragedy where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna mess with this guy because I should have won that. I bet like $10, I would have won like 100 and plus. Yeah. Anywho, that's my vent to the get to the gang, but
Can't
my
have
God,
nice things, man.
can't have nice things. Bouncing off that though, apparently Kelsey was very important for the tush push.
A
I
little
didn't think
bit, yeah. They weren't as
mostly
effective.
well, they didn't do it twice. Like there were two attempts. That was one where they fumbled, and then there was another one where they just didn't get it.
Yeah.
Also that center at a different time snapped the ball when he wasn't supposed
Oh
to.
yeah, the fumble in the first quarter.
The fumble in the
Yeah.
first quarter. So my point being, oh, Kelsey mattered a lot for sure.
He's a big impact loss for sure. I do think part of that was like maybe the gimmicky aspect of like being in Brazil week one. Like
Sure,
there's gonna be some
for sure.
hiccups. Like a lot of the slips as well were like weird. Like
Hmm.
that first quarter for Philly was atrocious. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think they'll be fine. However, your Saquon take not aging well, my friend. At
Well,
least
Saquon
through one
versus
week.
Walker did pretty well. Like Walker had a pretty good game. I
No,
mean, not as good as
I'm
Saquon,
not
but
I'm not saying anything bad about Walker, but you were off of Saquon, and Saquon had
hey,
3 touchdowns,
let's
132 yards, and
let's give it some time. Let's let that again. I'm not wrong. We have to give it. It just hasn't worked.
right.
It's
It's only week one. It's too early.
week one.
It's
Let's
too
calm
soon.
down.
But yeah, Eagles win 34-29,
Yeah.
and hopefully Jordan Love will be back soon. But both of these teams are going to be, I think, in contention for the conference, at
Hmm.
least playoff potential, as long as the Packers don't go 0-4 and get completely screwed. But
I am confident still in my Dallas over Eagles take for winning the division. Like I don't think Phil. I didn't see anything from Philly where I was like, oh man, I'm regretting that one, or it's clear. Like
well,
granted, Philly still could do it, but I'm more just like, yeah, I'm still confident in that take.
when you put it in context, like Philly played really bad. They had three
Hmm.
turnovers, 0 points in the first quarter, and they won the game 34-29. Like they
Hmm.
found a way to really get it done, and the Packers couldn't run the ball like at all. Like there was one big play from Jacobs, a 32-yard run, and then Jaden Reed had a 33-yard rushing touchdown. But otherwise, like I thought the Eagles' run defense was really good. Their secondary was trash. But
Hmm.
for them to have won that game with all the mistakes that they made, I
Hmm.
thought was kind of impressive. But
Hmm.
just a very weird situation. I don't want to
Sure.
completely buy in 100% after the Sao Paulo game. But yeah,
Hmm.
odd game. AJ Brown dominant as ever. That
Yeah.
67-yard touchdown was proof why he was a good first round pick. But
For
other
sure.
than that, anything you want to mention, or can we move on?
No, I'm curious to see going forward just how, like, if Jalen Hurts is going to get as many rushing touchdowns as he has gotten in previous
Probably
years.
not. I
Well,
would
see, and that's my
I'd bet
thought.
the under. Yeah,
And at that point, it's like, okay, he was for a lot of people, he was QB1, probably at worst QB2.
he's my
And
QB two. Yeah,
so then it's like, all right, is he going to be as dominant as he was before? I'm not sure. So that was the big one for me where I was like, oh shoot, maybe he's not going to get like before it was like double digit rushing touchdowns. That's why I think like Allen's clearly here.
yeah.
We'll probably get there, but yeah, that was my biggest takeaway with the Eagles is like, oh, maybe he's not going to get as much as he
I'd
used to.
probably prefer Lamar over
Mhm.
Hurts as of today, but Lamar has more injury risk.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move over to speaking of Josh Allen. The Bills win 34-28 over Arizona, and
Mhm.
damn, 4 total touchdowns for Allen, 2 rushing, only 9 rush attempts for 39 rushing yards. But when they get in close, like he's just such a dominant goal line back,
Mhm.
and that's going to be the problem for James Cook all year
Yeah.
long. Like I was really hoping they might pivot, but at least in week one, like they just leaned on Allen and barely asked anything of anyone else. Like especially Dalton Kincaid.
Hmm.
That was the shock of this game. Kincaid had 2 targets, 1 catch
Yeah.
for 11 yards. And granted, Josh Allen only threw the ball 23 times, but
Hmm.
like he completely disappeared. Are they just like are they like putting a smoke screen around him because they get Miami on Thursday night? Or
So
is this like
apparently the wind was a big factor at the game. That's what a lot of people are saying now, that the wind was actually very, very high at the
okay?
game. And that's why, and like same game, Marvin Harrison Jr. gave you almost nothing. So like you could look at passing attacks for both teams and say, oh, way less than what we thought. And so
Yeah,
with high winds, it's hard to throw the ball. So it makes sense that they didn't. So
passing
that,
was shit in
yeah,
this game. Not as
passing was
only
shit.
Keon Coleman was the only player with over 50 receiving yards, and he had 4 for 51.
Mhm.
So
So with Kincaid, and honestly with any of the people from this game, I'd give it one more week before you start making major assumptions about it.
yeah,
Other than like, yeah, Josh Allen's the QB1, like 100%. And it's because and the James Cook take 100%, but that was kind of my thought going into the season where you're like, well, what's he really going to get if Josh Allen's going to steal goal line touches, if Ray Davis maybe becomes something? It's like this those high value touches just become less and less for James Cook.
he did have 19 carries along with 3 targets, 3 catches, a total of 103 yards. So like the volume was there for James Cook, but yeah, without consistent touchdowns, I think your take of Kenneth Walker far above James Cook was
Hmm.
very wise. So
Hmm.
that's
But
gonna
yeah,
be something to watch.
Kincaid. I'm not worried yet.
Yeah, not
If
yet, but God, I was
if after
pissed.
next week in a better scenario he still isn't getting anything, then it's a little like, yeah, that's scary for sure.
I assume you're not panicking on McBride, given he had 9 targets, only 5 for
I'll take
30.
that.
But yeah,
I'll
not
take 9 targets though. Like and also his route participation. He ran routes just as much as Marvin Harrison. Like he was active in the passing game. So like I loved to see that, especially then with the wind factor. If like that decreases passing efficiency, he's looking for him and he's participating in all these routes and he's on the field the entire time. That's kind of I'll take that. Like that's pretty good.
speaking of Marvin,
Um,
just atrocious. 3 targets, 1 for 4. He did get
so
wide open on like a deep shot that they
yeah,
didn't take, but
you got to be
I think
nervous
he'll be
about it.
fine. Oh,
Yeah,
you're
but
nervous. You're really nervous.
so I was nervous on him going into the season where he was getting drafted, just because like again,
It was
he's
expensive. It was
I
expensive.
think his the thing that concerns me about him is I think his average depth of target was like over 15 yards or something like that, which means that he is doing that traditional X receiver route tree, which is deep. And it's like those types of routes don't get you, it's very boom busty because like, but they also kind of needed him to fulfill that role in the offense is to like threaten deep and do those types of routes. So maybe they make an effort to get him more involved. Maybe they try to improve upon that. But if that is who he's going to be, he didn't look super fast was my big concern. He didn't look fast. Yeah, he got open on that one deep route, but if this is his role in the offense, I'm a little like eyebrow raisy as to what we could actually look at here.
A little
But
concerning. Yeah. I
but
mean,
you gotta, I
he
mean, you
was
gotta
so
ride it
bad.
out.
Yeah,
Like
no
you
other
took him so
option.
high, you kind of have to keep riding with him, and you just hope that they make a concerted effort to get him more involved.
Yeah. Kyler looked decent though. Not worried
Mhm.
about Kyler. 5 rush attempts for 57 yards. James
And it's
Conner
Connor, yeah,
really,
his backfield until he gets hurt.
yeah,
Like
really
he's
dominated. 16 for 50, not like insane efficiency, but a touchdown and then 3 catches for another 33 yards. Like Connor was an excellent fantasy play this week, and
mhm.
that worked out.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
he is who he's always been. It's like, yeah, if he's on the field, he's doing a great job, but you really can't expect him to play every game. So that's where,
yeah.
the ADP discount comes in. But hey, as long as he's healthy, fire him up.
Last note I have, it feels like both defenses are going to be really good matchups all season
Hmm.
long. Like if the
Yeah.
Bills consistently give up 28, I don't know if
Hmm.
it was just because it was Kyler, but that's not a
Mm,
defense that like really scares you with a lot of injuries and
yeah,
changes this offseason. And then the
for
Cardinals
sure.
defense, they started off well, but they gave up 34 points as well. Like really good
Yeah.
matchups all season long
Mm,
for fantasy. So good spot to be
100%.
in. We can move on to oh, this will be quick. Patriots versus Bengals. Oh God, like is
I
it?
dropped the Bengals D in every league. Just once I heard Higgins was out and Chase was on a snap count, I dropped their D because I was like, this feels weird. This is the weirdest feeling of a game I've ever felt, where like Chase is telling reporters I'm going to be limited and on a snap count as if like that was his decision, and Higgins out of nowhere isn't going to play. And you're just like, what the fuck is going on? The Bengals
Yeah,
are such a weird team.
so strange. I could see them like really bouncing back if Higgins is healthy week 2 because it's against the Chiefs and like they obviously like completely overestimated like their ability to beat New England. Like there's no chance
Mhm.
they like actually treated the Patriots seriously, right? Like
No. And I think the Patriots, all of us, like when they heard like the Chase and Higgins news, probably got a little fired up, like, hey, we might be able to win this.
and the fact that like
So
80% of the country picked the Bengals in like the
yeah,
survivor pool. Like,
yeah,
all right, fuck you, everyone.
yeah. 100%. Like, granted, the Patriots, I still think are going to be a bottom 5 team in the NFL. Like, I wouldn't get stoked about them, but it's not surprising that they won this game. This was a weird one for sure.
So strange. I was shocked. I didn't think like for them to be held to 16 makes sense, but for the Bengals to only put up 10 really shocked me.
Mhm.
However,
Yeah.
I I guess it was a decent contrarian option given the state of their receiver position, but like Jamar
Hmm.
caught all 6 for 62. He was complaining he didn't get more targets, even though he said he was going to be limited in the first place.
Hmm.
Yoshivas was their next best guy with like 3 for 26. Nobody did fucking jack shit except for Zach Moss, who had
Yeah.
the only touchdown, had 9 carries to Chase Brown's 3, and
Yeah.
also had more targets, albeit just one. He had 4 targets. Chase Brown
Mhm.
had 3. Looks like Zach Moss is the guy you want over Chase Brown.
100%. I think so. Certainly at this point of the year. And then you're just really hoping the Bengals as a like the Bengals as a team, I'm a bit nervous for because like with it, like how injured is Higgins going to be throughout the year? And then you still have like the Joe Burrow injury, like what is it to like his wrist or his hand or whatever.
You're more
So
worried about that than I am, but it is a
I
factor.
really
Yeah.
am, especially like yeah, so you're really hoping that the team is good so that the Zach Moss thing matters. And same, like I have Chase Brown in a lot of places too. So I'm hoping that like just as a team, they're a lot better. But it's nerve-wracking for sure.
I think they'll bounce back. I don't know for sure.
Hmm.
I think it all hinges on T Higgins and Jamar Chase. Chase will probably be
Hmm.
fine, but if T Higgins misses like considerable time and like re-aggravates the injury like mid-season, then I
Yeah.
would probably hit the panic button. But
Hmm.
I was so impressed with Ramondre Stevenson here. 25 carries,
Hmm.
120 yards, and a
For sure.
touchdown. Almost like 5 yards per carry. I didn't see that coming at all. And then
Hmm.
he also had 3 targets, which is what we expected. He caught 3 for 6. That was kind of irrelevant, but like such a good fantasy
Hmm.
performance on the ground. Yeah, Ramondre was a lot better than I thought.
Yeah.
The only one you can trust here though, like their best fantasy
Hmm.
option was Austin Hooper, 2 for
Yeah.
31. KJ Osborne is the only one who had more than 4 targets with 6,
Yeah.
and he had
Yeah.
3 for 21. Like you
Yeah.
can't start anyone other than Ramondre.
For
But
sure. And like luckily with Ramondre, you took him with a late enough pick. So you're not you probably weren't expecting much out of him. It'll be interesting to see what happens when there are more negative game scripts or they're going up against better defenses or yeah, like it'll be interesting to see. But either way, great if you drafted Ramondre with a later pick.
they probably lose like 6 in a row starting next week though. But
Oh, for sure.
we can move
Yeah.
on to the Giants losing 6-28 to the Vikings. Daniel
They might
Jones,
get the number 1 overall pick.
2 intercept.
They look fucking awful. Like
Yeah, and one of their field goals came on like a super short field in the first quarter.
Hmm.
They couldn't even cash it in for a touchdown. Malik Neighbors, 7 targets, 5 for 66.
Hmm.
I will say this though, I think next week the Giants get the Washington Commanders, and
Yeah, that's
that
that's
looks like
good.
an elite matchup in the air.
Hmm.
And like the Commanders secondary is just so bad. I would be trying to like fire sell Malik Neighbors after next week if he has a good game, which
For
he should.
sure.
He really should.
He
But
really should. And I'm
oh
gonna
god,
guess, like, just because of how hyped he was in the preseason, if you did draft him, he probably didn't lose a ton of value because people who were maybe excited about him and maybe wanted to buy him will see, like, oh, he got a lot of targets. Oh, he had speed, like he looked good at times. So like all that stuff's still there despite him underperforming. So yes, if he then goes off against an elite matchup, you're kind of like, hey, maybe you flip him for somebody laterally.
you hope so. But otherwise, there's nothing you can count on. Like Singletary was pretty atrocious, 10 for
Hmm.
37. Even Daniel Jones, like he only ran for 15 rushing yards. Like that's the only thing he
No,
offers, and he couldn't even fucking do that. Like
I don't know. I don't know how he's this bad. Like, and then they paid this guy. Like, that is just such a yeah. Someone they were like a Jets fan. I'm sorry, a Giants fan, and they were like, we're becoming the New York Jets. Like, it is just such a dumpster fire of a franchise right now.
yeah, ugly
Just
as
because
fuck.
like it's a really ugly spot to be in. It's really hard to look forward to anything. In hindsight, if I were the Patriots, I would have taken the Giants up on their draft day offer of like getting their first round pick for next year. So
Yeah,
they,
maybe.
I have no idea. Anywho,
On the other side of the ball,
Giants are a
though,
dumpster fire.
yeah, Giants suck. On the other side of the ball, though, Aaron Jones looked really good. 14 carries, 94 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Also caught 2 for 15. And
Hmm.
Ty Chandler was a little involved, very pedestrian numbers. But Aaron Jones, really, really effective. Darnold won
Hmm.
the game with only 208 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But I believe it was on a tip pass. It wasn't even like his fault. But Jefferson, not elite, 4 for 59 and a touchdown. At least you get bailed out with a touchdown, but
Oh yeah,
not great. Addison
yeah.
left the game with an ankle injury, and
Hmm.
otherwise, Jalen Naylor cut a 21-yard touchdown. Otherwise, nothing too crazy. But they won 28-6. You know, like
Yeah,
when you have 28-6 in the third quarter, you're not really like trying to do too much that's like crazy in the fourth quarter. You're just trying to get out of there.
for sure. I definitely think maybe next year for fantasy, a thing we could talk about a bit more is the strategy. Like think Aaron Jones, James Conner. Eventually, we'll get to Joe Mixon, where it's like these older running backs where like their ADP is suppressed because it's like everyone's like, oh, they're going to get hurt or whatnot. And that's why they're going so low. But in the beginning of the season, they're going to do great. And so it is this idea of like, oh, like with Aaron Jones and James Conner specifically, maybe not as much Joe Mixon. It's like you could draft them early in the season and they could be your starters and then just kind of look to flip them after a few weeks before the wear and tear kind of starts happening.
I think if you have them handcuffed, you're feeling really good. Like
Hmm.
if you have Chandler and Jones, like you're getting a good starter, except the 1 week where Jones might go down and you start him
Hmm.
in your lineup. And then same applies with Connor. Like if he goes down, you have Benson really locked and
Hmm.
loaded. So yeah, it's not a bad
Hmm.
strategy, especially you want to start off hot in your redraft league
Yeah.
and then maybe make some trades or plan for the playoffs. If you start off like 4-2, 5-1, you're in really
Yeah.
good shape. So yeah, maybe we underestimated them a little bit, but I still expect Aaron Jones and even James Conner for that matter to get hurt. But we
100%.
can move on. Not too
Mhm.
much else to talk about. I watched this game very closely, and oh my god, the Bears offense was so
Mhm.
bad against the
Yeah.
Titans, and like at halftime, even in like the mid third quarter, I thought they were so cooked, but Will
Hmm.
Levis just turned it over like crazy in the third and fourth
Hmm.
quarter. The Bears defense really stepped up, and
Yeah.
it was 17-0 with like 20 seconds left in the first half, and then
Hmm.
the Titans finished with 17 points and the Bears won 24-17. Like
Yeah.
literally 24 unanswered points from the
Hmm.
Titans. Like, and it was
Wild.
all on defense. The Bears
Mhm.
offense. Caleb Williams had 93 passing yards, 14 for
Yeah.
29. Like, what the fuck?
It's hard to feel good about that. Like, I guess I'll talk about the Titans first. The Titans blew me away all offseason because they were making moves as if they were contenders, like getting L'Jarius Sneed, getting Calvin Ridley. Like every move they were making indicated we think we're in the rookie quarterback window and this is our time. And they're just not like they're like, like they're just factually not. And that was like I was like they seem to think Will Levis is the guy. Maybe we'll see. And then just one game, immediately no, I
Yeah.
absolutely fucking not. Like I don't like the only interesting one I guess was Pollard because they kept pitching. Oh, Pollard and Spears are going to split touches, and it wasn't really that. It was more Pollard had the early downs role and Spears had the passing downs role, which is different from like a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
So the running backs, I guess, are a little interesting, but this offense, man, holy shit. How are you going to feel confident starting Ridley? How are you ever going to feel confident starting Hopkins? Honestly, Pollard or Spears, you're just like, man, as long as both of you are healthy, I don't know what to hope for.
Yeah.
It's a rough spot.
Yeah, this was a bad matchup overall. I don't want to like completely write them off because Hopkins was also like coming off of his injury. I think he may have been a bit more of a decoy. Only one target for him.
Hmm.
But overall, just the Bears like really good run defense. The the run game was kind of inefficient, other than Pollard's 26-yard touchdown, and
Hmm.
then Ridley had a terrible matchup against the top corner in the NFL last year. So
Hmm.
it might just be that, but like, yeah, Will Levis is just so inept and so turnover prone that like you can't feel confident at all for like to
Oh
blow
yeah.
a 17-0 lead and not put
Yeah.
up a single point in the second quarter, and like
Yeah.
your opponent wins with 93 passing yards and 84 rushing yards. Like,
Yeah.
who are we kidding? Like, you're not going to do it against anyone. I will say this, though. I was really surprised with, like, the usage at receiver. Keenan, 11 targets, only 4 for
Hmm.
29. Like, Caleb was just ass connecting with
Hmm.
anyone. And then Rome's only reception was off, like, a deflected ball that, like, hit somebody else's helmet. And, like, he jumped up for like a 50-50 on like a linebacker to steal it away. But like Rome did
Hmm.
nothing. DJ Moore had a bad matchup against Sneed, but he had 8 targets. I think he'll be better. I still trust DJ, but like
Yeah.
Rome
Everyone
was
else.
Rome was fucking awful.
Yeah, everyone else is rough. And I think everyone got hurt at some point too. Like I think Keenan got hurt, Rome got hurt. Not like serious, but just like banged up a little bit. Like it's really hard. Like even Swift and the running backs, it's really hard to look at anybody other than I guess DJ Moore and be like, I'm confident starting you. And even with DJ Moore, it's like,
Yeah.
man, there's just no floor for sure. Like I'm a little worried about my Bears over projection on the season, but it was what I said before, where it's like, hey, the beginning of the year is a little easier schedule, so hopefully he could figure it out against worse teams. And like they squeaked out the win, but man, they got to get better for sure.
Yeah, I mean, on like, there's two ways to look at it. On one hand, it's like they were so bad on offense, you can really hit the panic button and be like, was it just like
Hmm.
Lincoln Riley, and like this is a Baker Mayfield situation where like you get a first overall pick at quarterback that is
Yeah,
not living up to expectation. At least he didn't in
yeah.
Cleveland. Or
Hmm.
you're like, well, it's only week one and they will definitely improve, and they found a way to win with their defense despite putting up like 175 yards on the
Yeah.
game. They did not turn it over. That's actually, Velus Jones
Hmm.
had a lost fumble, but Caleb didn't
Hmm.
at least throw an interception. That was
Yep.
okay. And yeah, they just had no momentum. It was
100%.
ugly as fuck. But I hope they get better. I think they
Hmm.
can, but they get the Texans on Sunday night. I think that's like the easiest pick of the week. You're automatically
Hmm.
taking the Texans to win.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like Texans defense, pretty good option.
Yeah, at least until we see anything from Chicago. Their offense
Hmm.
is not one to trust.
Yeah.
Um, we can probably move on. Pittsburgh versus Atlanta. Did you?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this one. My God. Mostly from the Atlanta side of things. Wow. Cousins looks hurt. He looks not healthy at all. There were several throws where he looked bad. Like he looked bad, but I think it's because he was hurt. He there were several throws where he did not want to put weight on the foot that he hurt. Like I think it's hit that front plant for him. Um, and if Atlanta's passing game is going to be as inept as it just was, I know it was the Steelers. I'm going to give them a little bit of pass, but at the same time, holy fucking shit. If their passing game is just bad, that's bad for everybody. I mean, London, I don't know how you're not a little bit scared.
Oh,
Pitts, I'm scared, but he's still a tight end. So you're kind of like, all right, like it is what it is. Like
yeah,
tight end is a lot. The bar is so much lower for being startable. And he got the touchdown. That's better than him not getting the touchdown, but
yeah,
fuck
but
me.
he shouldn't. They should not have scored. There were two strip sack fumbles that TJ Watt had that were negated by penalty, and one of them was
Yeah.
immediately before that Kyle Pitts touchdown, and like in reality that should not have happened. So,
A
um,
real quick note on Pitts. He had a career high in terms of snap share in this game. It
that's
was more
good.
than ever. It was like close to 90, I think. Like point being, he was on the field all the time, which he never
Okay,
was with Arthur Smith because he kept putting Johnny Smith in. So
yeah,
you like to see that. That's a positive thing.
yeah,
But if the passing attack is going to be bad, I mean, even for people who are like, oh, but Bijan like did pretty decent. If the passing attack's bad, that's bad for Bijan. Like he got targets and whatnot, and
yeah.
Bijan's usage was elite. Like Algier barely factored in. If defenses know we just have to stop Bijan, he's going to get a lot more stacked boxes. He's not going to be all that efficient. He's not going to be in scoring opportunities a lot. So I think everybody, if you have any Falcon, you are just hoping that they can get this shit together. It to me again, it looked like Cousins was hurt and probably shouldn't be playing if they don't trust him that much, or if he doesn't trust his leg that much. But I get that they paid him a ton of money, so he had to start week one. But there's a chance they might put Penix in sooner than later, just because Cousins is like not trusting it.
It's possible. I did hear him say in his like interview with Rich Eisen right before the season about a week ago that like while he is cleared to play at the moment, his like full back to 100% timeline on the Achilles was not until like week 5 of the season. Like
It
he's
it
cleared
looked
for
it.
contact, but he's not 100% recovered at the
Yeah,
moment. So yeah,
it
gonna
looked
be a
it
slow
for sure.
start for sure. I do like their schedule at the end of the year. I think they can find a way, but yeah, they looked so
Mhm.
bad. And then like on the other side of the ball, like we saw Justin Fields get the start, and now he has a legit
Mhm.
shot to be the starter all season. That is possible.
Mhm.
He did not turn it over. That was good. He did
Yeah,
have a
that was
botched
huge.
fumble snap that he
Yeah.
fell on to start the game. That
Mhm.
wasn't good to see, but they found a way to win without scoring a touchdown. Like
And
he,
if it is Fields, you're a George Pickens owner, you got to be pretty happy with that.
yeah,
Because it's what he did with DJ Moore in Chicago, where
yep.
he's like he's not good enough to go through a series of progressions, so it's just latch on, throw it, and yeah, he might be bad throws, but I think Pickens is a good enough receiver to get some of those. So you're I don't know, man. Like again, it's hard to be super pumped because you still have Arthur Smith doing Arthur Smith shit, like mostly with the running backs, where it's hard to trust Najee, it's hard to trust Warren. Cordero Patterson's gonna come in every now and then, and you just might have no idea what's gonna happen.
Patterson had as many touches as Jalen Warren in this game.
Yeah,
Granted,
like that's Arthur
Warren,
Smith shit.
granted Warren was injured recently, but yeah, still not good. Fields had 57 rushing yards though. That
You love
really
that for
helps his
sure.
floor. Not a single touchdown though, only 156 passing yards.
Mhm.
17 for 23 though. Like he was somewhat, like decent completion percentage, but they were terrible
Mhm.
in the red zone. I believe Chris Boswell hit like 350 plus yard kicks in this game.
Mhm.
Like, yeah,
Mhm.
his long was 57. He made 6 of them, and they're not gonna they're not gonna make the playoffs if they can't score
Hmm.
if they can't score a touchdown. Like this is not a recipe for success. Their defense was great.
Hmm.
They could have been even more dominant if those penalties didn't happen on those TJ
Hmm.
Watt blowups. But like
Yeah.
I don't feel confident that the Steelers are going to win like 10, 11 games all of a sudden.
Would
Um,
you sell low on Drake London? That's the one that I like. I'm not a Drake London owner anywhere. There were several times in drafts where I consciously made the choice not to get him. He's the one though where I'm like, man, do you just sell low on him?
the,
Because he's only gonna because maybe someone believes, oh, this was just week one, not a big deal. He's the one person where I'm just like, fuck, man, like this could get bad
he was
and he
bad
could go
last
right
year.
back. He can go right back to just not being startable.
I
And
let me look at their
yeah.
schedule. I need to see their schedule. Like, could
Like,
it?
would you rather have Drake London or Tank Dell?
Oh, Tank Dell, 100%. But
So like,
that's a big
I think we're
drop off
dipping in.
already.
Right, it's a big drop off already. I think there are just a ton of receivers where you could just walk down the line and be like, all right, who would I rather have?
The schedule
Because
is rough.
man,
They get Philly next week on Monday night, then the Chiefs, then the Saints, then Tampa,
yeah,
Carolina, Seattle, Tampa again, Dallas. You know, as low as the value might be, it might get far lower.
that's what I mean. Like
Yeah, you make a
after
good
week
point.
one,
You make a
after
good
week
point.
one, you could convince somebody, hey, it was just week one, they'll get better. It's a new offense, blah blah blah. After week two of the same shit, which kind of seems likely, don't know. I don't know, man. Like it's scary for sure.
I
Yeah,
I'd shop him. Yeah, if I could get Tank Dell, if I could actually get Tank Dell, I think I'd rather have Tank Dell for sure. But yeah, fuck,
mm,
that's really
yeah.
gross. Um,
It's bleak.
I'm still very low on neighbors, but I might rather have neighbors.
I'd do that in a heartbeat. I would do that one in a heartbeat,
Shit.
100%.
I'm glad I didn't
Yeah,
draft a ton of London at the top of round two on underdog this summer.
yeah,
Yikes. Yeah, it does not look good. Maybe it was just Pittsburgh, but fuck. You make a very good
yeah,
point. I think I might try to at least shop him, see what the value is.
for
But
sure. Like you're taking a loss 100%, but you might be taking way more of a loss in another week when
yeah.
there's no deniability. You have no more deniability of like, oh no, this is just what he is.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
probably it to mention. Fryermuth 4 for 27. We weren't expecting a ton from him, but
Hmm.
I did think he would have been better with Russ at quarterback than
Hmm.
Fields.
Hmm.
So not great
For
on
sure.
Fryermuth. Let's move over to Miami and Jacksonville, where Miami almost lost this game. I couldn't
Yeah,
believe that their defense shut out the Jags in the second half. But they
for
win 20
sure.
to 17. They find a way at home. Maybe it was the heat that was a real
Yeah.
factor. It just builds into the fourth quarter. Like you get exhausted in that Miami heat.
And with the way they designed their stadium, that whole fun fact where
Yeah.
like for games at this time of year, the opponent's sideline is like 20 degrees warmer than the
Yeah.
Miami sideline. So maybe for sure.
Maybe, but I really loved what I saw from Brian Thomas Jr. He caught
Hmm.
on the box score. He caught all four of his targets for 47 yards and a touchdown. But he could have had a massive uh, game here that was even better because there was like a
Hmm.
35-yard touchdown uh, that did not hit. It was in his hands, and Jalen Ramsey just like bullied
Hmm.
it on a PI, like an aggressive PI, like so
Yeah.
obviously pass interception, but like just to prevent the touchdown that turned into a Travis Etienne 1 yard score. But it could have been like 5 for 85 and
Hmm.
two touchdowns. Brian Thomas looked phenomenal, which I'm ecstatic about. I thought it might like
Hmm.
take a little while, but he was exceptional right away. And I feel like just the fact that he was covered by Jalen Ramsey so much in this game is like a sign that like no, he deserves a lot of respect and he will get it. And as the matchups
Yeah.
get better, the sky's the limit for Brian Thomas. I loved what I saw from Brian Thomas.
100%. And that's why I was super, like, I have Lawrence in the subscriber league. That did fuck all for me this week, but I at least liked what I saw from Brian Thomas that, hey, he took the shots to him. Just really wasn't connecting. ETN got that touchdown in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not as excited. Lawrence is who he is. You're hoping that he can get a little bit better and that the offense can get a bit better, but super exciting about Brian Thomas for sure.
Lawrence, pretty inefficient, 12 for 21, 162 yards and one touchdown, but at least no interceptions. He also added one 8-yard carry, so not great. I thought he would be better this week.
God, and basically nothing to Kirk and Ingram. Like
Yeah, Ingram was just
that was the wild one for me, is that
almost
those two
irrelevant.
are almost, yeah.
Both had only
That's
one
why
catch.
you hope, like, I think that that's going to change going forward, and I think their offense should be better for it. But my God, like I mean, Kirk started with a bad game last year. I
Yeah, I was about
remember
to say
that. I
that.
had him. So who knows, man? Like it's a hard spot to be in for sure. You're starting ETN. Bigsby's rosterable.
That was going to be my next question. Are you panicking on ETN with the knowing the fact that Bigsby had the exact same amount of carries? They both had 12, and Bigsby was also way better. Bigsby was
Yeah.
12 for 73. He did not get any targets, but ETN was 12 for 44 and a touchdown with 3 targets, 2 catches, 15 yards. So he does get the valuable work in terms of
Yeah.
goal line and receptions, but like if it's a 50-50 split carries wise,
Hmm.
like that is frightening as all hell for ETN.
100%.
I'd
Yeah.
be
No,
terrified.
I'm with you there too. Like definitely way more than I thought we were going to see. I wrote off Tank Bigsby after last year and just assumed he'd be a non-factor this year.
He was so bad last
But
year, but now he
but
looks
he
decent.
he now he looks decent. He's for sure one of those like Charbonnet style elite handcuffs where you're like, cool, if something happened to ETN, maybe he gets just a ton of work.
Yeah.
And he could have some standalone value in the meantime. But yeah, you can't love that for ETN. You're hopeful he just keeps this goal line work.
He's rosterable. I'll definitely rank him top 50 next week, but yeah,
Mhm.
ETN coming down, not a safe play at the moment.
Yeah.
Much closer to like RB, maybe even outside the top 20. I was gonna say like maybe like 19 or 18,
Yeah.
but I could see
With the offense
putting him at like
struggling a bit.
24.
Yeah, like if he's not going to have as many, like last year he just had so many touchdown looks. If the offense is like meh or just like average or below average, then yeah, there's
Very
not as
touchdown
much to be
dependent.
excited about.
He gets the
Yeah.
Browns next week at home. That's gonna be a interesting spot for him.
Yeah.
But pivoting to Miami, oh boy, A Chain came out of this game with an injury. I hope he's okay. I did not look into
Hmm.
the news on that, but he did exit this game. But holy shit, 7 targets, 7 catches, 76 yards for A Chain. That's gonna be so valuable.
Yeah.
That's so good.
100%. Yeah, it seems like it's an ankle injury, but nothing. Yeah, like
Well,
they're not participating. So seeming like I guess we still don't know too early in the week for
I'm
the
ho-
H-Chan and Mostert as well. He had a chest injury.
I'm hoping they're just trying to be cautious because they play on Thursday night against
Yeah.
Buffalo. But that was our concern with A Chain to start the season. It was like, well, is this guy going to stay healthy? Last year he was so brittle and so injury
Hmm.
prone. What are we actually getting from a full game standpoint on A Chain? But if
But
he
I mean,
if he
the answer
starts,
is
you have to put him in your lineup. He was
the
really
answer
good.
is you're getting the third receiving option on a team that's going to pass the ball a lot, and you're also getting someone who's going to get the goal line work. Like that was the crazy. Like he got the all those valuable touches. So, like you were saying, like if he's playing, you got to start him because he just has such an elite upside in this offense. You're just a little. I mean, I guess just try and get Jalen right if you can, and just kind of
Well,
hold him, and
that's
you're
the
hoping that
that's the thing though. I was shocked to see that A Chain and
Wilson.
Mostert dealing with injuries. Jeff Wilson was the guy that stepped up. We did not see
Hmm.
Jalen Wright get any touches in this game. Jeff Wilson had 5 carries for 26
Yeah,
yards, and
that's true.
he was actually the RB3. Maybe it's just a week one situation where it's like, do we really trust the rookie yet? Probably not. But
Yeah,
yeah, Jalen Wright, maybe not the handcuff to
yeah.
own. That's a very weird situation. Mostert was extremely inefficient. Mostert was terrible.
Hmm.
But Tua, really lit it up in the second half. 338 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. He also had an 11-yard run, which you don't see from Tua that often. But
100%. Yeah.
Tyreek Hill with an 80-yard touchdown, like,
He is who he is,
yeah,
like for sure.
that's not surprising. Jalen
There's just no.
Waddle exited briefly, but came right back with a concussion concern. He was cleared though.
Yeah.
5 for 109. Great game from Waddle. Otherwise,
Yeah.
like, there's nobody else you're starting. Like, you're starting Tyreek, you're starting Waddle and A Chain, and we already knew that. At the moment, you can't
Yeah.
start Mostert though. That's a bummer if you were counting on Mostert.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, all in all, like yeah, I think Miami's still a team you like to see. They're going to throw the ball a lot more this year. Positive to see big receptions for A-Chain for
who,
sure.
who you got on Thursday night? The Dolphins or the Bills? I'm gonna
Boy,
I'm gonna take Miami.
I was going to say Miami too. Yeah, I'd take Miami. But especially Buffalo's defense looked pretty rough,
Yeah.
and Miami actually. I mean, I think the Bills' offense probably is better than the Jags, but they were able to kind of like stand up
And
to
it's
them a bit. So
and it's in Miami. I think that's the
yeah.
that's the deciding factor. But
Hmm.
okay. We'll pivot to Houston and Indianapolis. This was like a playoff game. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed watching this game. And not just as like an Anthony Richardson and Nico Collins
Can
manager.
I,
I
can
have
I,
them on
can
the
I
str
get your take on Anthony Richardson first? I want to hear your unfiltered take from the game.
You know, he only has one speed. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a 2 yard check down or a 60 yard deep bomb. The man is
Hmm.
rifling it at 80 miles
Hmm.
per hour, and there is no touch at all. But
Hmm.
like, although he was only 9 for 19, like, and some of those like some of those misses were really bad. Like, I'll
Hmm.
take it if it also comes with 2 50-yard touchdowns as well. And then he also ran for 56 rushing yards on only 6 carries. Like, if he only runs
Hmm.
it 6 times a game, like, I think he'll stay healthy. And he also had a rushing touchdown. Like, he gave me almost 30 points in the subscriber league scoring setting, and I was like,
Hmm.
I was so ecstatic to take him because I drafted him for only $1 more than Jaden Daniels, and like, I feel so happy with my investment. Like, it's not like the
Hmm.
Texans matchup in division is like the best you could ask for. And while he did throw an interception, I wasn't like happy about that. He also missed AD Mitchell on like a wide open touchdown
Yeah.
that would have probably won them the game. Like, he was both the reason that they were in this game and the reason why they did not win. Like,
Hmm.
but he needed to kind of be perfect in order for them to win, or at least like just have like 3 more completions and they didn't hit. And my expectations coming into the season, I think, were confirmed. I'm really happy that I drafted him. I'm really confident with him in fantasy, and I think this team's gonna be really good. Like, I know they lost, but to go 2 points down against the Texans, we know the Texans are like elite. Like, I
Hmm.
still think the Colts are like a very obvious wild card team, and yeah, I really liked what I saw from Richardson. I think if you have Pittman, you're worried, because Pittman does not offer like the skill set that Richardson like really needs for fantasy. But
I would correct that with any Colts receiver or any Colts like
well,
skill position player.
here's the thing, man. Like, yeah, they're risky as fuck, but like, if you told me that the 60-yard touchdown to Alec Pierce and the 54-yard touchdown to Ashton Doolin go to AD Mitchell, like, a lot more often the rest of the year, like, you have massive upside with the Colts offense. So they're not safe, I'll give you that, but like, there's elite potential with this cannon. Like, Richardson can
Hmm.
literally throw it like 80 yards. Like, when he hit on Alec Pierce, he almost got sacked. He was
Oh
like
yeah.
flat-footed, he was completely off balance, and he just flick of the wrist like all the way down to
Yeah.
like the 5 yard line, touchdown. It was, the highlights are fucking amazing with Richardson, man.
Oh
I
no, he
I,
he
I
had
love
hands
watching this
down
team.
like he had the two best throws of the week for sure. But that's kind of like if you told someone like if you showed someone those two throws and were like, "Hey, look at this guy," they'd be like, "Oh my God, he's amazing. How'd he do?" And you'd be like, well, I'm glad you asked. He only had, after those two throws, seven other completions. You're a little like, well, fuck me, man.
Yeah,
Like,
if you show them those two plays and then show them the five targets to AD Mitchell, you're like
yeah,
the AD Mitchell throws. You're like, this guy's god awful. Like what?
yeah.
This guy
Oh,
sucks.
for sure. But one thing that bummed me out about, like, man, there were still a couple times he got hit where I like shuddered. It was like the one where he got slammed. I was like, my fucking God, he hasn't learned a thing. Like they didn't teach this guy how to slide at all. They didn't teach this guy how to avoid contact at all. Even just from a concussion stand. Like I'm not talking about season-ending
Yeah,
shoulder
that's
shit
fair.
or ACLs. Even just from like my man, you are going to get a concussion. Like you have to. They same thing with what I said about Lamar. If they don't like if that's what he's gonna do the rest of the way, good God, like you're still starting him any week he's in, but man, you're gonna get like you got to do better. You
Well,
have to do better to not just get walloped like that. I know he's built like a brick shit house and is massive, but you can only take so many of those hits.
he bounces right back up and he like laughs and like grins at the defender when it
Yeah.
happens though. Like that's the thing. Like he's got like 30, 25 pounds on Lamar. He's got like 50 pounds on Jaden Daniels and like what is it?
I get
150 on
it.
Kyler Murray. Like
It's for
you
sure.
know,
Like I just like to see him not take such insane hits
I
and
would I would
just
like
like
to see that as well. Yeah, I hope
because
it.
he's and then I guess we could like my take in general on the Colts. Like I even like if you're a Jonathan Taylor owner, right? Like
This was a bit
what you
shocking to
love
me. I was wrong about Taylor this week.
what you love about Taylor is I think he had the highest RB usage of anyone in the NFL this week. Like he was on the field for almost 100% of the snaps. He got like almost every touch. You love
They
that,
have no backup.
but
Yeah.
they have no backup. But like you are still going to have the problem of he's not going to catch passes because Anthony Richardson's
Nope.
not going to throw it to him
He did not.
because
No.
that's not who he is. And you're going to have touchdown stolen because Anthony Richardson's going to run it in. Like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So as a Taylor owner, you're a little like, fuck, like what am I hoping for here? Like he's you're going to get all this rushing work, but where fantasy points come in, like from catches and touchdowns, you might just go a little lacking. So that's my worry with Taylor. And then yeah, Pittman, Pierce, AD Mitchell, I could see a scenario where they're all like, hey, if you have to start them, go for it. But like, there's no floor here, and you could just get really bad scores, and you're never going to know when to start them.
Once Downs
That's
comes in, it's really
and
risky.
that
Yeah. But I
again, as long as Anthony Richardson's playing, he's elite, 100% fire him up. I'd love to see the passing get better, just so that everyone else in the offense could be, viable in fantasy. Because I think Pittman had like around 2, 3 ADP in ESPN
yeah,
drafts or
Pittman was
something.
rough. 4 for
That's
31.
gonna be rough.
But
It's rough, but also I don't like it's kind of why I'm like low on London, where it's like it's rough, but I don't know how it fixes. I
yeah.
don't see a scenario like I
Well,
don't see what the fix
at
is.
least with Pittman he saw 8 targets. You can't say that about London. But
Yeah.
yeah, if he continuously gets rifled the ball 5 yards down the
Mhm.
field and it's out of his hands, then it's not going to be that great. But I will concede your point earlier on Taylor, just to circle back. Like I was way too confident in Taylor this week. He's been so good against the Texans historically, and they made a point of emphasis to shut him down.
Yeah.
16 for 48. That's terrible efficiency. And like
Mhm.
he had like 3 straight games before this one with 30 plus carries. So for them to
Mhm.
cut that in half because he's that inefficient is kind of concerning. And yeah, if he gets vultured on the goal line every single week, that's not going to be good. He did find the end zone. He did bail you out for over 10 points, but without the touchdown,
Mhm.
you would have hated me. I'm sure
Yeah.
people who did start Taylor with confidence or were not happy with my take this week, but
Mhm.
I didn't see that coming. I thought Taylor would have gotten like at least 20, maybe even 25 carries and at least some targets. He didn't see a single fucking target. That was a big shock. But
Yeah.
they almost win the game. They do not. It is what it is. In regards to the Texans, I mean, they are who we thought they were. Like everything in the passing game was exactly what it was. Like Nico Collins
Mhm.
had 8 targets, Dell had 7, Diggs had 6. He just happened to catch 2 touchdowns, and
Mhm.
we expected like them to be neck and neck with each other.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good. Collins was phenomenal. Nico was
But
like
like so
fantastic.
the big one for me, and like I told you there was a league where I just traded for Tank. I'm excited for Tank because Nico and Tank had basically the same air yards, over 100. That's great. Tank got a ton of targets. And like if Tank had that one catch and touchdown like for 40 yards, I feel the conversation we'd be having right now would be a lot more like, oh my God, like Tank's fucking awesome. He needs to be a lineup lock. So I feel
Yeah.
like he's a little undervalued by people who didn't watch the game and who are just looking at the box score with like, oh, that's not that great. But no, like he almost had a monster game and all of the underlying shit is there that hey, you should have been drafting Tank. And that was a call you had that you were high on Tank. So you got that one right.
Yeah, Diggs got bailed out with 2 touchdowns, but only 6 for 33. He did catch every single target, but very much checkdowns overall, like nothing deep down the field. Dell, like you just mentioned, has a great buy window where before he finds the
Mhm.
end zone and before he goes like absolutely nuclear, you can probably get him for a bit of a discount, especially next week against Chicago. Like Collins is gonna have a tough matchup. Dell probably steps up big time. But
Mhm.
the story of the game really, which I kind of buried, was Joe Mixon, 30 for
Yeah.
159 and a touchdown. Also caught all 3 targets for another 19 yards. He was phenomenal, and I did not
Yeah.
see this coming. I was a little worried about Mixon in this offense, but holy fuck, man, Mixon was elite.
So that being said, I agree with that.
Sell high?
I yeah, I would sell high because I don't think anyone is looking at this team and saying it's the Joe Mixon show
No.
and Stroud and the receivers are supporting that. It's the opposite, where I think it is the Stroud and receivers show, and Joe Mixon gets to benefit from that. So if you can sell him, like I think there's a chance. Like he historically hasn't been a great running back. We have a like he hasn't been all that efficient in Cincy. I think if you can sell him and convince somebody he's an elite player, uh, boy, I think I'd rather have Taylor over Mixon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think if you could do that somehow, or you can convince somebody to do that kind of a trade,
I don't think you'd be able to convince someone for this. This I think would be a reasonable question, and then we'll move on to another game after this question. But
yeah,
who would you rather have, James Cook or Joe Mixon rest of season? Because that I think is a
yeah,
reasonable trade
yeah, yeah,
offer.
100%. Boy, I don't know. I just don't trust Mixon as a running back. Like I'm just very leery of him, or I'm like, I don't know. Like he could be great all year. Like he could just keep benefiting from this awesome passing game.
There's no way he has 30 carries every week at 29
Yeah.
years old or 28, one of the two. There's no way
I
that
I
continues. He was just so
I agree.
efficient and he kept it going, and they were like, well, it's working. We're not gonna
Yeah.
fucking change it. So
Yeah.
let's keep giving him the ball. But
Yeah.
would you rather have James Cook?
I
Sounds
think
like it.
so.
Yeah.
I probably would. Just because again, I think that like Stroud at times looked a little shaky, but on the whole was pretty good. So I think the passing attack is going to just improve, and they're going to learn more as the season goes on. We are going to win games by putting the ball in Stroud's hand and letting him throw to our three elite receivers, our three like our like if all three of them were Pro Bowl like caliber receivers this year, that wouldn't shock me. Like they're I think they're three talent-wise very good receivers, and if they just keep throwing to them, I think that's how they win games.
All right. Well, we're over an hour already. We got 5 games left. Let's try and be a little fast, but some of these are not
Sure.
that important. Like, I don't think we learned a lot from the Chargers Raiders game, but holy shit, their offensive line looks great. Their
If you
def
took Dobbins in best ball, like good for
Oh my
you.
God, I'm so happy about it.
Doesn't
I mean, he could get hurt next week on like the
matter.
second play of the game, but yeah,
Who
at least at
cares?
the moment, I'm
Yeah,
ecstatic. 2 like 50 plus yard rushes.
for
Granted, he
sure.
ran out of steam on both of them, They should have been house calls, and he got tackled on each of them. But yeah,
Yeah.
he looks great because the offensive line is just so good. Like Joe Alt
Hmm.
was the clear right pick, man. Like
Yeah.
I
Oh
kind of
yeah.
wanted
I'm so
Neighbors,
thrilled as a team.
but oh my god, it's such a good call.
Hmm.
Max Crosby did fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Herbert was sacked only once, and
Hmm.
against Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby to only
Yeah.
give up one sack for 4 yards, like that is insane. Herbert won the game
100%.
with only 144 passing yards, one touchdown. McConkey was their best receiver, 5 for 39.
Hmm.
Palmer did almost nothing. He got ejected at the end. Um,
Hmm.
Quentin Johnson actually caught 3 receptions for 38. But
Hmm.
I'll take it. It's better than I
Yeah. Oh, for
expected.
sure.
But the
For
story of the
sure.
game
Gives you something.
was the rushing attack for sure, and it was
Gus
split.
Edwards looked bad.
Yeah,
I thought Edwards looked bad,
yeah, he
which I
did.
think maybe if Vidal could get his shit together, maybe he becomes the second one. But for now, it's J.K. Dobbins until further notice. Like
Yeah,
I think you got to start him.
Dobbins is a great flex
Um,
play. I kind of want to maybe rank him top 20, but I think that's maybe just my personal bias talking. But
mhm.
their defense looked really good. Granted, it was against the Raiders, so I don't want to like completely buy into it. I think it's gonna be hard to like totally trust them after like
Yeah,
the first 3 games because they get Carolina next week and then the Steelers as
yeah.
well in week 3. So like they're gonna be
They could start
good
3-0,
and they
and
could
yeah.
still be trash. But their run defense was really good. They only gave up like 3 yards per carry to Zamir White,
Hmm.
and Zamir White ran for like 4.7 last year. So that was really
Madison was
nice.
involved way more than I thought he would be.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking.
That's got to make you not feel great about Zamir White.
No, I think you
Um,
could easily hit the panic button on Zamir. I'd be very
yeah,
concerned about White.
for sure. Bowers, I think, is a
Oh,
pretty like I don't
Bowers
know if
looked
he's got
great.
an I don't know if he's got an elite ceiling, but my God, he if he was a late round tight end for you, you're just printing money. Like he's definitely has a role in the offense. I think he'll get consistent work. Like you got to be pretty happy about taking him.
Of all the tight ends you drafted top 10 this season, I think you feel the safest and like most reassured with Brock Bowers coming out of week 1. Like
Hmm.
he was the next highest guy behind Kyle Pitts that got close to 10 points. He
Yeah.
was tight end 4 on the week with 8.8 and with 8 targets. Like I was a little worried that he got injured in the late preseason and that maybe he would start off slow, but no, he was phenomenal right out the gate.
Hmm.
And especially if they trade Adams, which feels like it's legitimately on the table, man. Like
Yeah.
Adams 5 for 59. I thought he would have a much better game. He had owned this matchup since he became a Raider,
Yeah.
and they kind of shut him down. So yeah, I think Bowers could be a phenomenal guy all season long. But Minshew, we weren't expecting jack shit. Jacoby Myers
Hmm.
had a 33-yard catch, otherwise nothing too crazy. But Adams was disappointing. Bowers was really good, and then Madison stole almost all the value you would have expected from Zamir. I think those are the only
Yeah.
takeaways from the Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to Denver, Seattle, where I in the first half I felt like my suspicions were confirmed on the Broncos Seattle game, where like there were 2 safeties.
Hmm.
Like, how often does
Oh
that
yeah.
fucking happen? But
Oh, for sure.
the Seahawks defense was really good, better than I
Hmm.
thought. I underestimated them a little bit. Their O line was
Yeah.
fucking terrible. Gino was really bad.
Yeah.
And DK Metcalf got shut down. JSN didn't do fucking anything. Lockett
Hmm.
still looks amazing. Lockett is just an ageless wonder.
Yeah.
And then
I
everything else
real
is just Kenneth Walker.
Yeah. With JSN, so I have him in the subscriber league, and the only glimmer of hope I have is that he did see a career high thus far in route participation. He was out there for a lot of two wide receiver sets.
He only had two
He wasn't
targets.
just he only had two targets. Oh no, it's terrifying. Like it's dog shit. But I'm
Yeah.
at least trying to convince myself, hey, he has more of a role than he did last year. Really sucked that Lockett looked that good. But again,
Yeah.
more scary that like the passing attack for Seattle just looked bad. Like it looked really, really bad. So hopefully they can figure something out.
I
'Cause,
I think they're just going to lean on Walker with a defense that good. I
yeah,
think that's the recipe they want. Charbonnet actually caught a touchdown. Charbonnet had
yeah.
10 touches in this game.
So that was
Um,
when Walker got hurt with the abdomen, and then I think kind
he
of
came back in
that's
the game
when,
though.
but that's when like I think Charbonnet did more, if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
I can't say I watched this game like a hawk the entire time. It was at the same time as the Chargers one, so I will take your word
Hmm.
for it. But I did not
Yeah.
realize that. But yeah, Metcalf got shut down. Like I don't think
Hmm.
you can ever start Metcalf when he gets like an elite corner lining up along on the opposite side. Like against Sertan,
Yeah.
against a guy like Ramsey, like
He
he
always gets shut down.
yeah, he's not safe. He's overrated. He'll be great when it's like, a mismatch and someone can't guard
Hmm.
him, but when it's against a guy like Sertan, just bench him. You're way
Yeah.
better off just benching him. Gino
Hmm.
bailed you out with a 30-yard rushing touchdown, 34-yard rushing touchdown, but
Yeah.
otherwise nothing exciting. Gino, big snooze fest with Gino. Yeah, the only reason they won this game is because they were just facing such an inept offense on the other side of the ball. Bo Nix had a rushing touchdown, but like otherwise, just dog shit receivers in
Yeah.
this one. I will say though, Cortland Sutton had 12 targets. That's encouraging. He had a
He did
terrible
fuck all
matchup.
with him though. Like the few clips I've seen, he just wasn't really trying. Like it's like he wasn't going full speed. I
No,
don't know if that's just like a I feel bad, like I'm upset that I'm in this garbage situation or what that was.
well, he
But
had a terrible matchup. I will give him like the
yeah.
benefit of the doubt, but if he's gonna see that type of volume, double-digit targets, then like, yeah, maybe the touchdowns probably don't hit that often. But I think from a floor
Hmm.
standpoint, you're probably gonna be feel a lot safer, especially in like full PPR. That's so
Yeah.
valuable. But yeah, I don't think the upside's massive, but just the fact that he got 12 targets
It's
is
pretty good.
encouraging. Granted, Bo Nix threw it 42 times. How often is that going to
Hmm.
happen? But the running
Yeah.
backs looked terrible.
Yeah,
Javante,
Denver in general
yeah, yeah,
is just rough.
I was wrong to trust them. I was
I did draft Javante in one league. I'm still hoping that works out. But my God, it's hard to feel encouraged about any of that for sure.
Well, I was super low on Javante coming into the year. I had him as like RB 35 or 36, and this is the week where I thought he could play well, like because
Yeah.
he needs to maintain some efficiency to keep his job. And last year Seattle was a bad run defense, but they looked way better this year.
Hmm.
I did not expect them to be that good. Maybe the Byron Murphy first round pick really
Hmm.
improved, but I think it's just coaching.
I think so
And
too.
yeah, I don't think you can trust like any Denver player other than Sutton in like full PPR.
Well, that's why I thought Seattle was a playoff team because I thought, okay, their defense should be pretty decent. And then I had high hopes for the offense. And I guess they could still figure it out. But
It
yeah, like,
if I could go back and put the Seahawks over the Bears in the playoff picture in my offseason predictions, I would feel a lot better about
mhm.
that at the moment. Maybe it turns
Then
around,
again,
but as of
who
today,
knows? Who knows? Like I still like I would probably, at least from what I saw, take Seattle over the Bears at this point. But yeah, we'll
probably.
see.
Bears offense just looks so bad, but it's not like the Seahawks offense looked that good. But at least they have
Hmm.
Kenneth Walker. You can't say that about any Bears running back.
Hmm.
Anyways, yeah, I picked the wrong team on this one. We can move on to Dallas versus Cleveland, where
Hmm.
their defense surprised me. Cowboys defense really looked good, and I didn't expect it. I mean,
I think it's Deshaun Watson just looked really bad.
that's another factor as well. Yeah, Deshaun looked like shit.
He
Um,
looked like he shouldn't even be in the NFL. Like it's what the fall from grace this guy has had from being like a top five quarterback in the NFL to this, and his age isn't that like, he's not that old. Like I don't know, man. It's just wild. And like God, imagine being a Browns fan. I'm sorry. Like if there's anyone who's a Browns fan watching, I am sorry. I don't know who I feel bad for, Browns fans or Panthers fans. It's just got to be rough where you do this big move and it's just bad.
Back in the doghouse. I heard this morning from the Pardon My Take podcast.
Hmm.
It feels like Deshaun Watson is a better person than football player. And he is a horrible person. He's a really bad human being. Yet
Honestly,
he's
though.
probably better as an overall person than a football player. Yeah, he looked awful.
Holy shit. Like there was no like and that's why I wasn't like CeeDee Lamb was 5 for 10. Like he didn't have a massive game, but if I were the Cowboys, there's not a single moment where I'd ever feel like the game was gonna get away from us. I'd be like, yeah,
No.
we've got this. We don't need to go over the top here.
I was bummed about the Jake Ferguson knee injury, but according to him, he could
Yeah,
have stayed in the game. They were just up big, and there's no need to risk it. He did
which is
have
good.
an MCL injury, so he'll be out for probably a few weeks, at least like 3 or 4,
Hmm.
which sucks for me because I have Jonathan Brooks on IR. I got T Higgins out in the subscriber league, and I don't really have anyone to drop to make space
Time to
for
pick
tight
up
end.
Isaiah Likely.
Be quiet. I want him to. He's gonna be a really coveted tight end. But
For sure.
otherwise, like the only thing I took away from this game is Jerome Ford had 7 targets and like in full PPR, like
Hmm.
he's a really good player. Njoku got hurt, so you might feel a
Hmm.
little safer with Amari Cooper moving forward. But Cooper was
Yeah.
bad, only 2 catches on 9 targets. The volume is there, but like yikes. Judy scored the touchdown. Otherwise, not much to feel good about. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think you're like really worried about every Cleveland Brown offensive weapon, with the exception of maybe Jerome Ford until Nick Chubb
Until
comes
Chubb
back.
comes back, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, like until Chubb comes back, fire him up every week. Like the
if he
floor is
gets
probably pretty safe.
6 catches every week, like you're ecstatic about that. He also found a
Mhm.
gimme touchdown at the end of the game, so
Mhm.
he was solid for fantasy, and that's
Next
what you
couple
hope
weeks,
for.
just go for it.
On the other side of the ball, though, last thing is like I don't think we really got like a lot of clarity between Zeke and Dowdle. Like Zeke looked a little bit
No.
better, but not by like a wide margin. Dowdle looked bad, but
Hmm.
he only had 2 fewer carries than Zeke. Like the touch split was like 55-45. It wasn't like overwhelmingly in favor of Zeke.
Yeah.
But I don't think either of them is really that like valuable. Zeke scored a touchdown, so you got bailed out, but like
Hmm.
I don't think you're like excited to start either guy. So,
Yeah, that's probably right.
but Cowboys defense must start.
Hmm.
Their kicker must start. He almost attempted a 70-yard field goal.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
knocked
he's
it in from
wild.
66, and there was a delay of game penalty that pushed it to 71. And I
Mm,
wanted him to try it. I felt like he was gonna get it because he cleared the 66-yarder by like at
yeah.
least 5 yards, and that would have been really really interesting. But yeah, I can't believe we let him go for $1 in the subscriber league. That was a
I know.
mistake. Last 2 games, the Bucks versus the Commanders. I cannot decide if Baker Mayfield's going to be like legit or the
Yeah.
Commanders secondary is just that garbage.
Yeah. It's
Because
hard. Oh, and then also eventually with the Panthers, like, did Dave Canales make him good or not? Or like the Bucks are hard to find to figure out, to your point.
yeah, I want to give it a little bit longer on the Bucks. They get
Hmm.
Detroit next week, so that'll be a good test, a rematch of that wild card game. But
Hmm.
Baker had 4 touchdowns, another 21 rushing yards. Baker was like a top 4 quarterback this week.
Hmm.
If you started him, you looked like a genius. Granted, very few people started him, but
I took him a lot in best ball. He was like my most drafted quarterback because he was always like I'd take an elite quarterback and then like him as my QB too. So I was happy with that.
I think it was more so the matchup. I don't expect him
Yeah,
to be that good every single week, but
for
really
sure.
encouraging at least. Like Evans had 2 touchdowns. Godwin had a touchdown,
Yeah.
caught all 8 of his targets. Godwin looks phenomenal. And then Jalen McMillan only caught 1 reception, but it was a 32-yard touchdown. So McMillan looked pretty good. Rashad
Hmm.
White caught all 6 of his targets. He's still a volume beast. And then he was extremely
Hmm.
inefficient. He had 2 yards per carry,
But that's
but
the Rashad White experience. Is he's
yeah,
not a good running back, but then he gets you there with like the PPR hack.
he still went over 100 total yards because of 75 receiving yards. Meanwhile,
Hmm.
Bucky Irving had 9 carries for 62 yards. Bucky Irving was actually pretty efficient. So
So he is who I am worried about Rachaad White in the sense that if the coaching staff is ever just like, from a real NFL standpoint, Rachaad White is not good. And then they're like, what if Bucky Irving is actually better in terms of like what we want a running back to do?
it's possible.
Like, so that's where I'm worried about Rachaad White. This is someone who doesn't have him and has had to face him in 2 leagues, so I'm a little pissed. But I'll admit my bias where it is, but at the same time, NFL coaches instead are going to be like, hey, sometimes we just need you to get a couple of yards up the middle, and we're
Yeah,
not doing that.
bad at running it, really good at catching it, and
Yeah.
in PPR he's a must start. But no
Hmm.
touchdown for him this week at least. But on the other
Hmm.
side of the ball, the receivers were shit in Washington. Like Zach
Hmm.
Ertz was the best pass catcher, not that was not a running back, and he had 28 yards. Terry was
Yeah.
ass. Terry fucking sucked. I didn't see that coming.
The
Um,
offense in general, like it was always like the way, and maybe it's just because Jaden at this point. It was like first read, get the ball out as quick as you can to the outside. Like that's just what every play was. And I don't know if that's just a Cliff Kingsbury thing or if that's a Jaden Daniels thing and that's going to get better or not. But for sure, nerve-wracking for if you have Terry McLaurin because it's like, cool, he's not going to get those. And
yeah.
what the fuck are we doing?
I'd be worried about all the commanders except for Jaden and Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson had 12 carries. Eckler only had 2. I was worried that Eckler would like be closer to
Hmm.
50-50, and so that's really nice to see if you invested in Brian Robinson. But
Hmm.
Eckler had 4 receptions for 52 yards. He's not atrocious, at least in the passing game. He has some viability. That's what we expected from him. And then Brian Robinson also really good efficiency in the passing game as well. 3 for 49 in terms of catches,
Hmm.
and another 40 rushing yards, a touchdown. I liked what I saw from Brian Robinson. I feel pretty confident in Brian Robinson moving forward.
Hmm.
Otherwise, the only one you're like feel good about is Jaden Daniels, who had
Yeah.
88 rushing yards on 16 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
No touchdowns in the passing game, no interceptions. He did fumble 3 times, but none of them were lost. They were all recovered, but like that's
Hmm.
not exciting. Uh,
100%.
he's got to slide. He's got to
He took
stay
some
healthy.
hits.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like Lamar, Richardson, Jaden Daniels are the three where I'm just like, man, I
get
need you to
down.
not like you can run, but get down. Like you need to just kind of like just keep staying alive. You're
I
going to get hurt.
I'm a lot more worried with him. Like Lamar and Jaden ran it 16 times. Richardson, yeah, he took some big hits, but he only ran it 6 times. Like, and he
Hmm.
was hyper efficient. He had 56 rushing yards. Jaden Daniels 16 for 88. Like at least Lamar had over 110 rushing yards on the 16 carries. Like I would be a little bit worried about Jaden his long-term health, but at least for fantasy, you feel good about starting him.
Hmm.
We can move on though. Last game, Detroit versus the Rams, where it didn't feel like we learned too much on this because Puka got hurt, but holy shit,
Hmm.
Cooper Kupp had 21 targets, bro.
Yeah.
Just PPR gold until
No,
Puka comes back.
he looks great as long as Cooper Cup stays healthy. Must start like guaranteed. I think top 10 for
Yeah,
sure. Like
for
yeah, he looks
sure.
great.
Locked in. I did expect a low efficiency game from Kyron Williams here, and that did happen. He did find the end zone, so it helped you out. But 18 for 50, not great. That's like
Yeah.
just over 2.5 yards per carry. Like, yikes.
Hmm.
I think it's the matchup. I think you want to avoid running backs in your lineup against Detroit, unless they're like
Hmm.
studs, like Kyron can be. But I was shocked that Blake Corum didn't get a single touch in this game. Like Ronnie Rivers
For sure.
was, albeit very limited, only 2 carries, but we didn't
The
expect that at
guy.
all.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford threw for 317 despite Puka being out. Um,
Yeah.
just so many targets to Cup though. That we'll see that they should bounce back, but their O line got hurt along with Puka.
Hmm.
That's a little concerning, but
Yeah.
I think they're still going to be a heavy favorite to at least make the wild card and be a big
Yeah,
big
there's a massive
monster
injury risk
in
with
the
them for
playoffs.
sure.
Yeah, the injury
Yeah,
concern not great, but
and that it's like Stafford has an injury concern. Cup has an injury concern. Puka, the line. Like there's just a lot of
Kyron even.
like Kyron even. So you're like, it's just a like it's a very brittle team. They could get lucky with injuries. They could also just implode. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for them.
they did almost win. They went into overtime and
Mm-hmm.
lost because their defensive line could not stop Panay Sewell and Dave Montgomery. But
Mm-hmm.
on the Lion side of the ball, I am not panicking at all on Amon-Ra St. Brown. His worst game in 2 years, 3 for 13 on 6 targets, but that'll
Can I
fix
give you my
itself.
Lions pitch
Sure.
real quick on that? Because you brought up the David Montgomery and Penei Sewell thing. And here's why I'm concerned about the Lions skill position players. So it's kind of what I mentioned at the beginning of the season, where I'm just like, this team at the end of the day wants to run the ball. They want that to be their identity,
That's their
and they get
strength.
praised for doing it. And specifically, every time they give the ball to David Montgomery, that does two things. One, it takes the ball out of the explosive playmakers' hands, out of Jamison Williams, out of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, Gibbs. Like, they're not touching the ball because Montgomery is. The other thing that giving the ball to Montgomery as much as they do does is it runs the clock down. And just because like that's the type of running back that he is, it's this trudge up the middle, and like they're just ground and pounding the defense. So it takes a lot of time off the clock, which makes less targets and time available for everybody else in the offense. And there's just so many, like Jamison Williams, he looks like he's incorporated. Like there's just so many mouths to feed in this offense that still at the end of the day wants to be a ground and pound, run up the middle team. So it seems like someone's going to consistently disappoint, and maybe all of them kind of do, but the team's still going to win. Like that's the problem, is I think at the end of the day, there's still going to be a great football team who can win this way. So I don't think there's going to be incentive for Ben Johnson to like change this, and they're going to want to establish that run and the physicality. So that's why I'm a little like, man, I wonder how this plays out in the season. Like, yeah, you're still like they're still elite. You got to put them in your line, but in your
I
lineup, but I'm a little like, huh,
I'm not
how's
ready
this
to
gonna
worry
go?
about it too much yet. Like, yeah, maybe they run a few less plays because of time of possession reasons and like just draining the clock with the run game and Montgomery, but like I think this will be one of the few games all year where they score less than 30 points. And
Mm-hmm.
St. Brown will bounce back in a big way. Laporte is going to find the end zone probably next week and bounce back in a big way. I think they really wanted to get Jamison Williams confident in this one. They gave him
Mm-hmm.
9 targets. They also gave him
Yep.
some opportunities in the run game, and they gave him one. But
Mm-hmm.
Gibbs had that hammy recently. I think that's a reason why they leaned on Montgomery a little bit more. And like especially in overtime, like that's what really pads the numbers for Montgomery. He had 17 for 91 and a touchdown. Almost all of it came in overtime because it was like, okay, well, the Rams are banged up, they're tired as fuck, and like we clearly have the mismatch here, and there's no point in risking a turnover in the passing game when
Mm-hmm.
we can just run it down their throat and in 2 minutes just go the distance. So I'm not too worried about it, as it sounds like you're not like panicking about it, but you are at least concerned a little bit. I'm not that concerned, but
Yeah.
I do think it was kind of just like a unique week 1 game plan where we will see the strong blow up playmakers get a lot more touches the rest of season.
Mm-hmm.
Like Laporte is going to get more than 4 catches consistently. Gibbs is going to get more than 74 yards consistently. Like he can pop off for 150 any week. And then St. Brown only had 6 targets. There's no way that this is like not going to be his worst game of the year. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that concerned. But it is a slight eyebrow raise, but not enough for me
Yeah.
to really hit any panic button. I think they'll
Oh,
be
for
fine.
sure. You're not panicking. I just was a little concerned about this going into the season, where I was like, huh, don't know how this is going to work out. And I'm just a bit more like, okay, how's this going to shape up? But they're still elite players. You're still starting them. I wouldn't panic on it. No.
All right. Well, that's it for the games that have taken place. We'll just
I don't think we talked about New Orleans, Carolina.
We didn't? I thought we did. I'm pretty sure we
Did
did.
we?
I think so. I may have skipped
Even
over
if,
it, but if
either
not,
way,
it's.
imagine drafting Olave. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, you're
I
right.
just wanted to get that. So I remember beginning of the year, like beginning of the offseason, I told you I was into Olave, and then I gradually fell out of love with him as the preseason happened. Like if you look at how many points the Saints scored, you would assume Olave went off. You clear like if you showed me that if someone during the draft was like, here's what the Saints are going to score week one, the only thing I would assume is, oh my God, Olave got 10 targets and 2 touchdowns at minimum. He had to have. And I would have drafted him everywhere. I mean, I don't know what you do. Like
2 targets, 2 catches, 11 yards for Chris Olave, and they win 47-10. Yeah, shocking. I was a little
yeah,
worried about him this week. The matchup wasn't great, but I didn't think he'd be that bad. They just didn't need him.
yeah.
But oh, we did skip over this. Now that you bring it up, I was right. I just missed it. But
No worries.
yeah. Oh my God, Bryce Young just terrible.
I think he's just bad.
Every
Like,
Panthers,
man,
he's awful. He's so bad, man. The
the bar was
sacks
so
looked
low.
the sacks in this game. I watched the highlights. He looked terrible on the sacks, just like
He looks like he
ragdoll.
hasn't improved at all. Like in the like he hasn't learned a single thing in the off season.
Some bad interceptions.
They look like they're playing for the number one overall pick again. Like
Yeah,
they seriously could get the like I had more confidence in the Patriots than I did these people. I'll
yeah.
tell you
That's
that.
that's fair.
Um,
That's fair.
I have so for me it's kind of between the Giants and the fucking Panthers at the moment. I kind of think the Panthers are going to be the worst team.
Yeah, I will rescind my Saints worse than Panthers take. I still think the Saints are bad, but the Panthers are definitely far worse.
Yeah.
No question about that. But at least Leggett got 7 targets. He did lead the team, but you got to be worried about Deontay Johnson. Bad matchup against Lattimore, but still, fuck, that's terrible. Chuba
It's
Hubbard
just yeah.
was atrocious as well.
Well, because they worked Miles Sanders in. Like if that's what they're doing, then who do you like? I don't think anyone's startable
No, no, you can't start a single Panther. Not
for real. Like
not at all.
yeah.
Um, Kamara had a good game. Jamal Williams had a decent garbage time touchdown.
Hmm.
Taysom Hill was a little bit involved, but he's a tight end, so it's
Hmm.
low bar anyways. And then Juwan Johnson was kind of effective. Shaheed had a deep touchdown, otherwise was pretty
Yeah.
nothing, and that's what you expect. It's like you're hoping for a deep touchdown, otherwise you're never starting him. And even if you
Hmm.
do, it's like, oh God. And then oh yeah, like you mentioned, Olave was just god awful. So not really excited about any Saint other than maybe Kamara. But
Hmm.
even that doesn't feel a great like I don't actually like get any positive takeaways from the Saints in this game. Like maybe I'm just so biased
No.
because I was so down on
No.
them,
No.
but
No.
like I really just think it was like the Panthers were so bad. They
Yeah.
basically quit on defense from like the first
Yeah.
fucking drive.
Yeah. But again, I'm just more terrified about like I didn't take Olave anywhere. You can't feel good about it.
No.
Like if he just doesn't have this massive target share and this connection with like if none of that's there, fucking A. Like
Who would you rather have, Olave or Drake London?
London,
Okay.
but it's not by much. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, man.
No, I
Like at
agree.
least with London,
I
there's the
agree.
hope that maybe Penix comes in at some point and could save you. But they're both bad. Like it's a bad spot to be in for sure.
Yeah. I
Um,
avoided them a lot this
yeah.
offseason. But okay, now we're done with the
Hmm.
with all the games that did take place. We'll just who do you think wins tonight? Niners or Jets?
Jets.
Really?
I'm
Okay.
gonna pick the Jets to upset. Just because, like again, Trent Williams hasn't been practicing. Maybe he's a little rusty. Maybe
He'll be
Ayuk's a little
okay.
rusty. But
Ayuk, I'm
like I'm
worried
just
about. Ayuk, I'm
so like
terrified about week one.
so maybe we got some rust on their offensive weapons, and maybe the Jets just want it more. Who fucking knows? Like I'm gonna pick the
It
Jets though.
it'll be a close one. I did take the Jets with the points because they're getting 3.5 at least
Yeah.
last I checked. But I do think the Niners still win. At home, I'll take the Niners, but it'll be close. It'll probably
Yeah.
be like a 20-18, 20-17 type of game.
The
Um,
Cousins performance made me nervous about Rodgers though. Like Cousins looked hurt. So man, if Rodgers goes out there, like I have
well,
Garrett Wilson. I know you do too, but like Man, I need him to not look like Cousins, or
At
else
least, like,
oh
even though
no.
Rodgers is like 5 years older, and it's like this could be terrible, he at least had like 8 weeks extra rest and recovery time than Cousins, where
And
like I
it
mentioned,
was on a different leg. So with Cousins, I remember it was like Stephania Bell or whomever
his
where she
plant
talks about
leg.
injuries. So with Cousins, it's on his, I think the plant leg, so he needs to use it to get like force to throw the ball.
Okay,
Rodgers, it's the other one. So the theory is he's still like he could throw the ball better.
okay.
It doesn't impede him as much, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I think the added 2 months of recovery, I think, make
Hmm.
Rodgers probably a safer bet compared
Hmm.
to Cousins. But we're gonna
Yeah,
find out. It's gonna be a fun game, and
that's right.
I'm worried about the Niners offense, but not enough to fade their defense and them winning the game.
Hmm.
I could be
Okay.
wrong. If Brees Hall goes off, man, this could
Mm.
turn into a big Jets win. We're gonna find out.
Hmm.
We're gonna see.
We're gonna find out.
All right.
That's
Well,
right.
thanks a lot for joining me. We went a little long. We'll try to trim it down next time, but
Hmm.
at least we're still getting the hang of this. So
Hmm.
appreciate anyone who's still watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Hmm.
Goodbye.